This is The Art of Wrestling with professional wrestler Colt Cabana. It's Colt Cabana.
All right, how you guys doing? Come on in, sit down, relax, put in those tweaked audio earbuds. You're about to listen to The Art of Wrestling, a professional wrestling podcast. Hey, it's a life podcast. It's a personal journal. It's an entryway into the minds, the souls, the hearts, and the lives of the people involved in the world of professional wrestling. I'm your host. My name is Colt Cabana. I am a Chicago native, a personality, a podcaster, but most importantly, I am a professional wrestler, and I am sitting here live in the studio apartment in Chicago, Illinois. Hey, before we go any further, this is a fan-supported and listener-supported podcast supported by people just like you. We give it to you free of charge every single Thursday on WeLoveColt.com, Stitcher Radio, and on iTunes. If you want to support, you can rate, review, subscribe on iTunes. Maybe tell somebody via social media, via mouth, via text message, or if you do have a couple of dollars in your pocket and you want to give back monetarily, you can. ColtMerch.com and DigitalColt.com. T-shirts, buttons, pictures, posters, DVDs, premium podcasts, past episodes, $5 wrestling movies, and the Wrestling Road Diaries. It's all available, digitalcolt.com and coltmerch.com. All right, guys, you read that correctly. Yeah, that's right. Hillbilly Jim joined me on the podcast, and the smile that I know that was on your face while it either downloaded or you went to the website or you saw on Twitter that Hillbilly Jim is on the program. Yes, my smile was just as big when we sat down and he was like, yeah, I'm in. I'll do it. I get it. I'm here to share some stories. How cool is that? And Hillbilly Jim has not been a friend for very long, but he was an Insta friend. Yeah, that's a word, an Insta friend. Hillbilly Jim right away was warming up to everybody. He was over in the Dreamwave locker room. He was cool as can be, making friends, hanging out, sharing stories, having the time of his life. I told him I did a podcast. I sat down. I talked to people. I conversed with some of the people in wrestling. And he's like, let's do a podcast. Let's podcast. So Hillbilly Jim joins me on the program this week. When I was either 4 or 5, maybe 6 years old, it was Hanukkah time in the Cabana household. My brother Greg didn't really like wrestling. I was a wrestling fanatic, obsessed, completely obsessed. It took over my life. I had anything and everything. I wanted to watch it at all times. My brother more into cartoons and video games and other kid stuff, not necessarily wrestling at all. And when Hanukkah came around and whatever night it was and we were to open our gifts and I opened my gift and I don't even remember what I got, but I look over and I saw that he got the wrestling album. And Greg, I don't know, probably wasn't that overjoyed, just another present to him. And the tears that rolled down my eyes of sadness. Mom, Dad, how could you not know that I was the one? I'm the one that loved wrestling. You know Greg likes video games and cartoons and drawing. That's his life. Me, there's only one thing. It's professional wrestling. Why would you give this to him and not to me? Yes, I get the idea that he's the only one with the record, and this was a record. He had the record player. I did not, but still the fact that I could probably just hold it in my hands and I could look at the pictures of Paul Orndorff holding drumsticks and the missing link. He's barely on TV. How is he on this cover? What's going on? Hulk Hogan, Vince McMahon, Gene Okerlund, Hillbilly Jim in his hillbilly outfit. I would treasure this thing. And it took me about 6 months to finally trade him probably everything I owned in order to get that in my hands. And when I had it, it was everything. It meant everything to me. I read it over and over. At 6 years old, for some reason, I knew exactly who Rick Derringer was. This was my obsession. This was my era. Hillbilly Jim himself represents what I love as wrestling. And when I look at wrestling today, no, it is not the same thing for me. So many people ask me why I loved wrestling as a child, and I never, ever really have a definitive answer. But I guess for me, if I was to sum it up somehow, I guess it would be the over-the-top awesome characters mixed in with the athletic ability. But that was my time. And now I look on televised wrestling, and no, it's not exactly for me. But you know who it is for? It's for those children that it touches. You know what I'm saying? Today, some kid kid is getting a Hanukkah present of a Dolph Ziggler coloring book or a backpack, and it's changing his life, and he's going to read about all the stats of the great Khali or Brodus Clay, and that's going to make his childhood. My childhood days are gone. I'm on to new obsessions, and that's why Hillbilly Jim is so important. He represents that era to me, that era of a childhood, and what that era of wrestling was, how it influenced me, how it made me the person I was today, how it kept me on track. Because of my love for wrestling, I was on track. I knew that I had to stay a good person. I had to be a good person because I had a goal in mind. I wanted to be a pro wrestler. You know, that thing that caught your eye as a child is different today as an adult. What catches our eyes? And a lot of people, some of them turn on the television, they don't like what's going on, they turn it off, or they shit talk it on some YouTube channel or whatever they want to do. But to those people, you find your new loves. And I say they're smart enough to find out about a PWG in Reseda, California, or Chikara Wrestling, or Lucha Vavoom. The same aspects, but with that new adult kind of, hey, this is for us. You know, the ones that grew up on that awesome stuff and aren't digging it right now? This is what we're digging. This is the product that we like. That's what ECW was for a more grown-up version. Of course, I started moving out. The Doinks and the Skinners wasn't really for me, but when I found out about a Sandman and Pit Bulls and a New Jack, you guys know about New Jack, that's the stuff that reminds me that, yes, I still love wrestling, but I have to find my wrestling. And you guys are smart enough. Listen, if you found this podcast, you're smart enough to get the idea, but share those stories. If you had a Hillbilly Jim when you were young or a Junkyard Dog when you were a child, share with somebody. Share with somebody a Kevin Steen. Share with somebody a Chuck Taylor. Let them know about Ricochet. Let them know about the new era awesome wrestlers that are out there for the wrestling fans that were hooked just like you and I when we were children, who maybe let go a little bit, but we're all here because of one thing. You looked on iTunes, you saw pro wrestling, and you were intrigued because, for some reason, some part of us somewhere, well, we dig it. Song of the Week this week brought to you by barbershopwindow.com. Hey, wrestling fans, it's cool again to wear pro wrestling t-shirts. Thanks to these guys and their original ideas and art, they got a brand new redesigned website, plus the Cliff Compton section, that's still up there. Up now, a Red Rooster t-shirt, an original art piece done by Rob Schamberger put on a t-shirt. Follow them at bshopwindow or make a purchase over at barbershopwindow.com. The song this week, easy, piece of cake. Set them up and knock them down. The dirty work's been done for me. It's Hillbilly Jim himself singing the original. Don't go messing with a country boy. Enjoy it. It's a beauty. We'll be back with the man himself.
Don't go messing with a country boy, a country boy, a country boy. Don't go messing with a country boy. Don't mess with a country boy. When I was a little bitty boy, baby, I cut my teeth on a big old tree. Mama filled my bottle from my moonshine still. My first meal was the bass she killed. A bass she killed, a bass she killed. My first meal was the bass she killed. Well, I grew, and by the time I was 10, I was 6 feet tall and a man among men. Now I love my work and I love my play. I hate the fool that'll get in my way. Get in my way, get in my way. I hate the fool that'll get in my way. Don't go messing with a country boy, a country boy, a country boy. Don't go messing with a country boy. Don't mess with a country boy.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey guys, each week we bring you the Art of Wrestling podcast absolutely free of charge. We're able to do that because of our supporters and sponsors, so please take a second, go over and check these guys out. OneHourTees.com, custom t-shirts made to your liking in an hour a week, whenever you need them. Are you a wrestler, a band, or someone who needs something specifically on a t-shirt? Get it done. OneHourTees.com. HighSpots.com, nearly 800 full-length titles available to download. And now they have a Kickstarter in place to try and document the whole story on Jim Crockett Promotions. Find all of that information at HighSpots.com. And TweakedAudio.com/Colt, the best earbuds ever. Get over 30% off and free shipping just because you listen to this show. You can get that done. TweakedAudio.com/Colt. If you want to advertise on the Art of Wrestling podcast, you can. Just send an email over to ColtWrestling@gmail.com. Subject, advertising. Thanks. I'm on here with Hillbilly Jim on the podcast. So what I would say is that usually I come on here and I talk with my friends. You know, my friends in wrestling. You know, I've been doing this about 14 years now, and I travel the world, and I have my friends, and we talk, and we kind of discuss wrestling and the life and the politics and just all of it, all the BS or whatever, and the love of it. It's a very positive podcast.
Sure it is. Sure.
But you know, with an opportunity to make friends with you here tonight, it's almost like sitting under the learning tree a little bit, you know?
Yeah, but it's almost like our dysfunction has gone through generations, and I love it.
Yeah, right, it is.
The same kind of stuff that we were doing as I'm watching a show here tonight, watching these young men, as I told you earlier, out here working and doing the things that they're doing in the ring. And I'm sitting out there just watching them. I'm just getting into it. I'm loving it because these guys all got a passion for it. And I see them, they're all young, and I'm thinking, and it really brought me back, if you will. It revisited me to yesterday when our guys are doing the same thing. And I told a couple of young guys as we got off the elevator a while ago, I said, guys, what you're doing on this show tonight in this town here is the same thing you would do if you're in Los Angeles at the Forum or if you're in Madison Square Garden. Or if you're in the Silver Dome in Pontiac, Michigan, wherever, it's the same match wherever it is. That's the beauty of wrestling. You know, the beauty of wrestling is you deliver it every night. And you know yourself from being around the business as long as you've been up and down the road and all the stuff. You've got to have a love for it.
Right.
You've got to have something in that you like. You got to have that feel to entertain, and you got to have a desire. You want to get out there and make everybody happy. And you know, and we all do different things. I mean, like you're out there, some of your moves, I see you do some of Dusty's stuff. Yeah. And now there was nothing no more common than the common man, the son of a plumber from Austin, Texas, Dusty Rhodes. You understand? And Dusty was no high flyer, nothing like that, but let me tell you something. He could sell out arenas and stadiums and halls all over the world because he had that panache, that thing. If you can get that, that's what it's all about. But whatever it is, you've got to connect with people. And me and you were talking about that earlier, you know.
Did you have, I kind of want to throw this on you a little bit. Did you have, like, when you guys were doing the WWF run and you guys were doing the arenas, were there, like, young kids that you guys would, like, sit down and be like, hey, Paul Roma, you know, or, like, you know, you're doing too much here.
Now listen, exactly. I know where you're going with this. And you and I are on the same thought pattern with this. Sometimes I wonder why so much. Like I told some of these young guys that are doing some of this amazing stuff out there. I said, brother, if I could have done just one of the things you're doing, and I'd do it all day long. Same move. But there's so many things that they do. It's almost like it's too much information for people to process. But, you know, that's part of the learning curve. You went through it. You're still going. And listen, let me say this to you, and me too. Every day I learn something. I'm not. If you're one of those kind of people that'll close your mind off and say you don't learn something, it's about wrestling, it's about life, it's about things, it's about up and down the road things, then you're missing a whole lot because it's always something to be learned. But yeah, we would. I didn't take it on me personally, but some of the other veterans, like the guys that had been up and down the road, like Harley Race, Magnificent Morocco, if you will, Bob Orton, Cowboy Bob Orton, or some of the other older guys would talk to these guys if they liked them and tell them, hey, look, man, you ought to do this, you know. But, you know, sometimes it's like you say, young people have this thing about them, if I knew then what I know now. But you got to go through it to get to it. So there's a lot of that going on. So, listen, let me say this to you. And I get this question, too. I know I'm jumping all over the place here because I'm excited about doing this. But I get all these people saying, well, was it better, Jim, in your day than it is now? Listen, I'm not going to say it was better in my day. At that time, it was as good as it ever was at that time. You know, because everything continues to move and grow. Like I watch a lot of the things that you guys do in the ring, and I marvel. I love it. I mean, the stuff that you guys can do now, it's amazing. The athletes have improved. I mean, they've got better. I mean, because they've had the ability to pull up a lot of these guys' matches and watch them, and they've had the benefit of videos. Back in those old days, those old guys didn't have those things to learn. I mean, people were just learning on the run as you go, and you're inventing as you move. And little do you know that somebody's going to come up to you, say 25, 30, 40 years, say, Hillbilly Jim, I remember watching. I'm going like, what? You know, I can't even believe it myself.
Can I tell you something? Yes. I have a move that I call the Hillbilly Jim.
Well, I guess you're going to tell me what that is.
If I'm shot in the corner, a guy comes at me, I put my legs up,
I love that.
And then
Top
I bop him on the head. That's an homage to you, my friend.
I love that, brother. Well, listen, I'm greatly honored that you would even say that. I appreciate that you use my name in there. But, you know, that's one thing that I remember when I was in the business I was in. Not too many of the old timers would come around then because
really.
Well, here was the deal.
Okay,
the guys that were in there now in power: Hogan, Orndorff, people such as that didn't have too many good things to say about the old guys. Because think about this, brother. The old guys treated them bad. They made it hard on them getting into business. They'd stretch them. They'd shoot on them. They would do awful ribs to them. They weren't kind and sharing to them. And these boys like Hogan and those guys, when they got their spot, they remembered it. Now, switch ahead, vice versa. What's so good about our guys that came from the 80s and early 90s like that? We go in dressing rooms now, and you guys treat us so damn good. It's just off the chart. I mean, the respect. It is so sweet because, first of all, we never did anything to you to bother you, and it really honors us that you come up to us, and they go out of the way to come up and say nice things too. That's why I go around and talk to the boys at a show like this I'm doing tonight,
right.
And doing autographs. And I get to talk to the boys, and they tell me how much they appreciate me just sitting there watching them, and they want me to ask me what I think about
being a nice person.
And I'm saying, I can't add anything to what you're doing. I love what you're doing. I'm marking out here. I love what you're doing. I'm digging it, man. It's cool. I mean, your spots are there. You guys you're having fun, you got energy, and I'm just laughing my ass off at it. I'm going like, I love this stuff, and that's quite a compliment, for people to return that to you. And it's always better, brother, for people to say nice things about you, I wouldn't want to, and to be honest, now you can correct me for whatever you heard because I don't know everybody, but I would hope that I went through that entire wrestling business and all the years in the ring and up and down the road and wherever I went to, this and that and the up and down. And I don't think too many people could say anything bad about me because really I never did do anything bad to anybody. I didn't mean anything bad. And I never really had too many beefs with anybody because I never did. That wasn't what I was about. I was about trying to do my thing. And I realized when I began on that journey that someday I'd have to end that journey. And I was hoping that I could end it on my own terms. And I didn't want to stay too long. And I kind of had a time, and a couple of injuries here and there, kind of, that'll hasten your retreat, But that's what it's about. But so I guess tonight's kind of got me all fired up, laughing at everybody because I'm having a good time with the boys. You see how we are, and I'm watching your match, and I'm watching you're doing. And I'm loving what you're doing. I'm watching all the nuances and stuff. And a lot of you guys do this stuff, and you probably think people don't see it, but they see everything in there. And a guy like you, when you work, you know how to take it nice and easy. It's kind of like, let's don't be in no hurry to do this. Let's make sure. They used to tell me, the old timers used to tell me this, would tell me, whenever you do something, you got to make sure not only the guys at ringside can see what you're doing, but the guy at the very top of the arena, at the top of the big arena somewhere can see what you're doing. That's why you take your time and you let everybody see what you're going to do. Otherwise, people miss it. So the young guys are a little bit prone to being a little bit too quick.
Right.
And they're a little too fired up, got too much energy, and they rush it.
Yeah.
But that's just something that comes along with being a...
Yeah. I want to... So you talk about your journey, and I think that was awesome, and it's cool that you said that right away. So here's the deal. Honestly, I know what I know. It's not like I go on Wikipedia. I'm not a journalist. I usually sit down here with my friends. Yeah. I know what I know, and I know... you're kind of like a little bit of an enigma. Like, known as a great guy, you go out, you do your PR, but a little bit of an enigma. Like, you had your run. Yeah. You were fucking Hillbilly Jim in my era, the 80s that I loved. Yeah. And then you weren't in the NWO, right? You know what I'm saying? So I mean,
you want my feelings on that?
Oh, do you have feelings?
My feelings on that was this way: when I began in that wrestling business, I really knew this, but I knew that someday I'd have to end it. And, that's fine. Because, brother, everything has its run. Everything has its time. So here was my deal. I realized, I said, look, I want to enjoy this as much as I can. I want to learn from this. And I want to have fun doing this and stuff. But when it's time to go away, I want to go away. I don't want nobody saying, how old is Hillbilly Jim up in that ring wrestling? Now, that was one thing, because I would hear him say about some of the other guys, and I'm not naming any names, because I love all my brothers.
But you saw those guys.
I would hear those people say, how old is he? And I was sure what people would say. But you see, that's when I realized that the biggest thing in the world, the biggest word in the world is the word called ego, ego. So I checked my ego. Then we all got to have a little bit of ego, brother, to do this. You understand what I'm saying? And that's fine, too. But I wanted to quit. And when you came from where I came from, and you went to the WWF at that time, it was the equivalent of riding in a broke-down Volkswagen or getting into a stretch limousine. Now, do you want to go back to a Buick? Do you want to go back to something less than that? I realized, Jim, Stop while you're on the top as far as you're going to go. I had my run, and brother, as I sit here with you, I'm happy to say that. And listen, I've never hated on nobody. I've never wished myself more. And actually, I could have probably done more in my life in the wrestling business if I was a squeaky wheel. But I wasn't a squeaky wheel.
You weren't a squeaky wheel.
No, I wasn't no squeaky wheel. I didn't complain. I just did my thing, you know. I mean, I go out, I do whatever they want me to do. You know, I go over and I put somebody over. You want me to? I ain't got no problem with that. I'm on the car. And you know, at the end of the day, as it's turned out, I've had a wonderful time. And can't nobody say anything bad about me because I truly believe, brother, when you leave this world, you can't take nothing with you but what you gave away. And if I gave away some good feelings to some people, I'd really have people, be honest with you and say, well, I don't care what people think. Yes, you do. I really care. I don't want people to think anything bad about me. I mean, because it ain't what I'm all about. And I'm like no malice towards men. I have an opinion, and who cares? We all got opinions. If you ask me, I'll tell you. But it's not my point to give that to anybody, but that was the deal on me. When I went away, I went away. And here's my deal. If you do the same thing all your life, say you're the best wrestler in the world.
Thank you.
Well, you are. I'm sure you say that before. But, you know, and that's great for you. And when we're gone, or as we leave, people are going to say, well, he was the best wrestler. He was the best worker. He was the greatest. And that's fine. But if you, the person, has lived your life and that's all you've ever done, you've had a shallow life. Life is about living it, brother. It's about experiencing it. You got to get out. People are going to remember you for what they're going to remember you for, or they're not going to. But you as a person owe it to yourself to experience this, to savor this. I'm mighty afraid that I'm going to leave this world, and there's so many damn things I don't know. I feel so stupid. As I've got older, I've got this voracious appetite to try to learn different stuff. I didn't know that. Or, you know, they didn't tell me that. How come I'm just now finding this out? Because sometimes you feel inadequate and you feel real stupid. You got to be humble about the thing and realize it. We're just humans. And it's all going to be there. So there's no horse that can't be rode, no man that can't be throwed. You hear all these analogies, you know, and you hear guys say there lays a guy that died but never lived. I don't want to be that guy. That's why I trip. My motto is I ain't here for a long time. I'm here for a good time. But right now, I want to enjoy this moment.
I love it.
And so that's why I spend time with the fans. And the people always, I think I connected with the people on that level too because it was a genuine feeling. Yeah. How cool is it when you can go around the country and you never feel like you're not at home. Everybody loves you. They say, Hillbilly Jim, come on over to my house. I mean, I really feel like...
And especially the Hillbilly Jim character.
Yeah, the character. That's why. That's another thing I want to morph into. You never did see me switching from babyface to heel. You never did see me doing none of that changing. You know what I'm saying? Like, because for me... I realized
you couldn't be a heel, right?
I wouldn't want. It wasn't in me, you know. I probably could. You probably could if they tell me heels have more fun, you know. Yeah. You know, but for me, it just wasn't in me. I mean, and you know what I realized? I said, listen, I'm going to ride this one thing out and just continue on this. And I'm going. And as life has turned out, I've still did a lot of stuff around the business. You know, I've been back and I did TV work, commentaries, Madison Square Garden Network, and I got to work on All American Wrestling with Gene Oakland for many years there, and we did primetime wrestling. Then I'd go back and manage people, and then they bring me out, have me doing fan access tours and hosting them and stuff. They still call me.
You're an ambassador.
I'm kind of. And I went out and I did the reality show for him this past spring. Okay. You know, a bunch of us guys, you know, older guys. It's called Legends House, but they paid me for it, but they never got it out yet. So I'm happy. I'm good with that. And they still let me do stuff. And, you know, like I say, and then I switched up in my career. Now I do radio. You know, I do Sirius XM radio. I had a show there for like 8 years. And I'll still do stuff for the WWE from time to time. My point is I always want to keep doing something. But I love coming back and seeing you guys, and I get off on you guys because I laugh at you because you're fun. Because people, I'm talking to the people now. If you don't think these wrestling guys are funnier than hell, you're wrong. Because some of these guys, half the stuff you see in the ring is not even close to how funny some of these guys really are. They're much more hilarious.
Well, that's the point of the podcast. It really is to get to know behind the character a little bit and see these great personalities.
Right.
And obviously you're one of them. You're so much fun. I do want to say you talked about the road that you took before to get from the broke down Buick to get to that limo of WWF. Yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about like how the Hillbilly Jim character comes or what you were doing before you were rocking.
I always enjoyed wrestling. I'm from the South, right? And wrestling's a religion in the South.
Where are you from?
Well, Kentucky.
Mudlick, Kentucky?
Kentucky, real close to Mudlick, Kentucky. Not too far.
That's a real place?
Yes, it is. It's in a little county called Monroe County, Kentucky. And the big city there is called Tompkinsville. How that came about is when I was a child, I'd go visit my relatives over there, and I lived in a little county called Barron County, and they live on this road, and they live in a little community called Lamb, Lamb, Kentucky, straight up. And sometimes my aunts would throw me and a couple of my cousins in the car, and we'd go over towards Tompkinsville to the bigger city there, and we'd go right by this little town called Mudlick, Kentucky. And I laughed my ass. It's a little wide. It's really Mudlick, Kentucky. So when I started getting ready to do the Hillbilly Jim thing, and they decided I was going to be a hillbilly because I hadn't been a hillbilly for a while, they said, "Where you want to be from?" And I said, "Blink, Mudlick, Kentucky." And Vince went, "Oh, that's good. Oh, that's exactly what Vince said," because it was George Scott, Vince McMahon Jr., Chief Jay Strongbone, me, standing in a dressing room one night in New Haven, Connecticut, the same place where Jim Morrison got busted by the cops when they sprayed him with a mace many years ago. Okay. You remember that? That was a whole rock and roll thing. But anyway, I did a show for them there, and that's when they decided they wanted me to come on.
So now you were just like Jim, though.
I had wrestled in the South under Harley Davidson.
Okay.
But I'm ahead of myself here. Back it up for you real quick here. I watched wrestling when I was a kid, and I always enjoyed it, but I was into sports. I was in Kentucky. Kentucky's a basketball mecca, So I always played basketball. I played college basketball.
You're a tall dude.
Yeah, I played college basketball, and I played a little bit of pro basketball in Europe. Okay. I come back, but I always was into weightlifting, too. I loved all working out and stuff. And so I would meet wrestlers in the gyms and stuff. And I'd always watch wrestling, and it was okay, but it didn't really appeal to me because the thing I didn't want to do, it was just a local little wrestling that would come on Saturdays. And it was like a lot of big old fat guys up there. Like it looked like guys that are just beer drinkers and mean guys, big bellies. And then all of a sudden, the Super Channel 17 with Gordon Soley and Georgia Championship Wrestling started coming on. And I started seeing all these guys who looked great. And I said,
name them off, yeah? Yeah,
all of them loved it. Snuka was down there. I mean, the Masked Superstar. All these guys, you start seeing these guys that looked like, man. And it just got into me. So one day I was at the gym, and I was working out, and a friend and I decided we'd go to the movies. And we were at this movie, and this wrestling promoter came to me named Dale Mann from Kentucky. He says, "Hey," he shook him. He says, "I'm Dale Mann." He's a worker too, He says, "Would you be interested in getting wrestling business?" He said, I know about you. He said, "My son talks about you." He
knows about you?
He knew about me. His son knew me from the university from working out.
Gotcha.
And he told me about me. And I said, "Well, you know what? As a matter of fact, I would." That's the way it started. So I broke in Kentucky, hung out there for a while, and then my first territory I went to, I stayed there about 6 months trying to learn what I was doing. We just go around, you just show up. If you get paid, you get paid. If there's any money, if you don't, you just go on down. Because he'd say, "Look, we can't pay you tonight. Ain't nobody here, but you guys need to work." And sure, we do it. Then my first territory was Calgary. I went to Calgary for Stu Hart.
Who sends you up there?
Archie Goldie. Remember the Stomper?
Yes.
He called me from somewhere. Somebody told him somewhere. Next thing he called me, and next thing you know, I'm calling Stu Hart. I'm talking, "Yeah, this is Stu Hart. That's it. I had to say you better come in, and then Stu Hart. And you don't want to make a mistake of calling him on your own dollar because, oh my God, he was,
really
back then it wasn't no cell phone.
Of course,
it was just and yeah, we got to bring you.
You're looking at the clock, and you're
oh my God. and if you call him collect or something, I got to go. Thank you. Okay, so I finally I make my way out to Calgary, and I'm at Calgary, and man, it's a whole different world out there now. And Calgary is steeped in everything. Everybody knows about Calgary.
But you're okay. You're like Kentucky. I'm fine to just move to Calgary.
I got my shit, and I went to Calgary. So I'm in Calgary, and I start to with Stampede Wrestling. That's what it's called. And we wrestle at the Calgary Stampede Ground. We go all up in British Columbia. We go to Red Deer, Moose Jaw, all these places. Man, it was cold-blooded.
Harley Davidson?
No. I was just no. I stopped. This is before Harley Davidson.
Okay.
This is before. This is one of my first territory. I was just going to Jim Morris was my name. I was a big Jim or whatever first down in Kentucky there. After I did that, Calgary. So I hung up there for a while, and I become real fast friends with one of Stu's sons, Bruce Hart.
Sure.
Brett at the time had just started at the WWF. The great kid that passed away in Kansas City, Owen was a young kid, but he was wrestling already in Germany.
In Europe, right.
So I was doing my thing, and I stayed up there for a while, and you wasn't making nothing, And a couple things going on, and so finally I just got to the point after a while we making these unbelievable trips. Bad News Allen was up there, and it was so great. We had a whole lineup of Japanese guys, and it was tough. Stu tried to get everybody down to the dungeon. He wouldn't stretch me because I knew what to do to keep him from stretching me. See, because he liked to get the big guys. He'd go, "Yeah, you're a big bastard. I bet you're pretty strong. How about if I do this?" Next thing you know, he's killing you. He's stretching you. And I knew what to do because his son had told me that Stu was a mark for one guy a big black man, wrestler named Luther Lindsay, who was a big old black man who was down in North Carolina territory, and Stu revered this guy because he stretched Stu.
Really?
He loved him so much, he had his picture in his pocket. Not his wife Helen's picture, but he had Luther Lindsay.
Or his 15 kids.
Yeah. And his son, Bruce, he said, if you want to get over the old man, he said, you talk. So I'm down in the dungeon one day working out, and Stu was great. I said, hey, I said, hey, Stu, you ever heard of a man named Luther Lindsay? Yeah, Luther Lindsay. Yeah. Oh, he got all capiche. He went nuts. And he says, yeah. Well, he went into his pocket and actually pulled out a little picture of Luther Lindsay who looked like
with a heart around it.
Luther Lindsay looked like a Neanderthal man. And apparently he just threw Stu through doors and when they wrestled him, just everything. And, Stu was a tough guy.
Sure, of course.
So I stayed there for a while. And then and I went on about that. And then I went to the South, and I began working in the Memphis territory for Jerry Lawler and Jeff Jarrett. That's when they put the Harley Davidson gimmick on me.
So, I mean, you're like, I'm done with Calgary. You're like, hey, Memphis, want to use me?
I went back.
We don't know how this works, our generation.
I went back. They found out some people that I was available. And a friend of mine made a couple calls. I talked to a couple of other boys. And next thing you know, me and Lawler started talking. Lawler puts the gimmick on me. He puts the Harley Davidson gimmick on me. He takes me down. I meet him down in Memphis, and we go over to some biker shop. He buys me all these chaps and all this assless stuff. And it's pretty cool. Yeah. And, I got all these gimmicks, and now I'll get your motor running. And he puts me in with this cool wrestler, a tough guy, a wonderful guy named Roger Smith, who used to wrestle as a Mass Destroyer and Assassins, and he was just great. But he was, he was so nuts. Sometimes they'd have to call a SWAT team on him at his house because he threatened his family. But I loved him. But he's a real smart guy.
He's nice to you.
He's wonderful to me. Great. But he didn't trust nobody, and he thought everything was a swerve.
Okay,
everything is a swerve. So I was with Roger. So it was Harley Davidson and Dirty Rhodes. That's what we called him, Dirty Rhodes, off of Dustin. So we got over his babyface team until finally Roger got mad, and he decided we weren't getting paid right. And since I was with him, he decided we were just not going to go to these shows, so we stopped going to shows. So that was my deal there. That killed that.
Right.
Because I was with him, I couldn't let the brother down. So I said, well, whatever. So then that opened.
But you sound like a guy who would be scared that your name would get dirty. You know what I'm saying?
Kind of too. I didn't want to get involved with anybody. I didn't want to get no heat with nobody.
But you had some guilt on you there.
I had some guilt on me, and I love Roger, and he was good to me. He treated me like a brother, and and he told me the ropes, and he kind of showed me what was going on, and kept me kind of out of harm's way because sometimes guys can do stuff to you when you're young in the business that you don't even know they're doing in the ring to you.
Of course.
So I'm back. A friend of mine, Bruce Swayze, who's a dear friend of mine, beautiful Bruce Swayze, a Canadian wrestler, older gentleman. He told me, he says, Jimmy, he says, he lives in Franklin, married a wife down in Franklin, Kentucky, and he's out of the business. But he said, the WWF is coming to Nashville. He said, let's me and you go down to Nashville. That's all right. So we roll in, and we roll to Nashville. We get into the Municipal Auditorium, and it's everybody you can imagine there. I mean, Andre's on the card because Vince has bought up everybody from every other territory. Junkyard Dogs there. One Man Gang is it's way before One Man Gang. It was what's his name?
Big John Studd.
Big John Studd was there. King Kong Bundy was there, and Kamala, the Ugandan giant. Piper was on the card. Orton was on the card. Orndorff was on the card. Hogan wasn't on that card, but it was Snooker was on the card. My buddy Roger Smith was working for them.
Okay.
Doing jobs. You're going out and the guys putting the first preliminary matches. But anyway, as soon as Pat Patterson saw me, they kind of freaked over me because I had the hair out big and, was big and there's a big beard. And John Studd got up behind me and wanted to see how tall he was, and they were all into me. They wanted me to work right then.
They're ready to sign you up.
I committed the wrestler's sin. I didn't bring no gear with me. I had no idea. Come on, think about it. But think about it. I had no idea. I mean, come on. There wasn't going to be no...
When you look like you do, man.
So let me tell you what happened. So here's the deal. The boys, Snooker give me some knee pads. Somebody give me a pair of boots. Somebody give me a pair of trunks. Next thing I know, I go out there and I work like a 20-minute match through with this kid named Tommy Hagee. We go through 20 minutes. And they love it. Pat says, have your stuff. He said, can you come to Memphis tomorrow night? Because they're going to Memphis. It was 200 miles. I said, sure. So I go home and get my Harley Davidson shit, right? To Memphis I go. Well, they put me on the card. I wrestled this cat named Salvador Bellomo. This Italian. When me and Sal go on our thing, he does a cartwheel, I do cartwheel. We do all kinds of stuff. It's a great. We have a good. Well, they say fantastic. They said we're going to tell Vince about you and blah blah blah, and then this is going to be.
So Vince isn't at the shows.
No, not this because we're just doing spot shows.
Even back then, though.
But we're just doing spot shows.
Okay.
Pat Patterson is running the deal. You know, the agent was there. About a month later, I get this call on the phone. Hello, Jim. This is Howard Finkel.
Yeah.
The Fink. He says, "How are you?" Blah 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 blah. We would like for you to come to New Haven, Connecticut. Vince McMahon would like to talk to you. We'd like to have you to work a match for us and see George Scott. And I want to make sure that that's going to be okay with you. And then I want to set up the flight for you. You know, I mean, you're talking business already. So Howard is my connection. So he sets up the flight. So I go leave and I get to New Haven. Well, when I get out there, I have that Harley Davidson stuff on. They let me do the match with all that stuff on. And then they get me back there. It's this booker, George Scott, Chief Jay Strongbow, God rest him, he's gone. Vince McMahon and me. They say, well, what are we going to do? Vince like me, you know. Well, what are we going to call him? And Strongbow, Chief Jay Strongbow says, well, there hadn't been a hillbilly in a while. And he said, I'll tell you, them scuffling hillbillies were good. And he said, you remember Haystacks and all that? Vince says, very good, very good. And he says, how about that? Vince says, Hillbilly Jim, that sounds good. So this is actually how it's come down. We're standing, four of us. And Vince says, where are you going to say you're from? And I said, Mudlick, Kentucky. Oh, Vince says, that's good. That's good. That's good. So that's how it began. And then I went home. And they started sending me money. Actually, brother, they were sending me more money. And I told Laura this and pissed him off. They were sending me more money a week to stay home than I was making in my best week in Memphis doing the whole territory driving 2,000 miles just to set me up, right? Just keep me going. And then they would bring me out and they would take me to all these cities and I'd go in like a hillbilly and I'd sit in the audience. And I was like a plant. And they put the camera on me and Gorilla Monsoon would say, wow, look at that big hillbilly over there. And Lord Alfred Hayes says, well, he's quite a big man, isn't he? He's a huge man. Oh, yeah, well, look at him. He looks like he's enjoying the WWF tonight being in London, Ontario. And then people could never put it together how I'd wind up in London, Ontario. About front row in Madison Square Garden with a backpack on like this, the hair out here, you know. That's how it began.
I just love wrestling. I just love my hillbilly here.
I just travel around. I'm driving my pickup truck, loading up with gas and get the dogs and the hell I'm going. So that went on till we got to the TV taping one night. Finally, they let me cook for about 3 or 4 months, and everybody kept talking about me.
But how good was just doing nothing, collecting a check, right?
How good was that? And how good is that old saying of like we talked about earlier, how young boys hurry up, get too fast? They sat there and stirred it. Because you know what the old saying is, the longer it cooks, the hotter it gets. They kept planting me out there and putting the camera on me, and it got me over. And then my deal was Hogan jumped in the ring at Poughkeepsie at TV to save S.D. Jones, God bless his soul, he's gone. Because Bobby Heenan, Ken Patera, and John Studd were going to cut his hair or something. Hogan jumped up and kicked their ass. Well, they stopped Hogan. Well, we'll beat him down, beat him down, you know. And then Bobby Heenan grabbed his scissors like he's going to cut Hogan's hair like that. And marks were looking at me like, go, I was going to Hogan. So I'd jump in the ring, you know, and Bobby Heenan turned around. I'd turn around and box and scissors fly in there. And Bobby does one of those ferret flops.
Sure, yeah. And
people go crazy. And then me and him dispatch Stud and Ken Patera. And I made that. That made me. Well, next thing you know, Hulk Hogan is always so happy. And then next thing you know, they start doing these vignettes with me where Hogan's training me. Okay. Show me how to drink protein drink, and I'm throwing up, and I'm holding my nose, desiccated lip. Wow, Hogan's awful, you know, just fun. So that's how it began.
Yeah.
That's the whole story. And I stayed with it.
Right.
And finished with it because I couldn't, brother. Look, I couldn't top it.
Yeah.
I couldn't top it. I didn't feel like I could top it. And I had a certain time in my life I wanted to be out of that business anyway. Now, I didn't want to leave exactly like I did because I left because I had a neck surgery, and I knew I just didn't want to keep.
So what happened? Was it just wear and tear, or
wear and tear? Well, I had a partial laminectomy where they go in the back and fix it up. You know, you lose the power in your pec and some of your tricep, and it was. I don't remember a time when I hurt myself. Now, I did have a real bad injury in '85. That's when I got the knee injury. That's the thing that really saved me. After I got real hot, I'm backing up now. The first injury was the knee.
Okay.
And I got hurt in San Diego. I was working the manager deal with Hogan, managing Hogan. Brutus Beefcake was working against Hogan, and Johnny Valiant was managing him. And we had a spot in San Diego. Spot was going to be where Johnny Valiant jumps up on the apron to interfere with Hogan, and I was going to reach and grab Johnny Valiant's right leg and spin him back around to where his back is out like this, and and to the ring. And so I'm holding his leg like that, and the spot was going to be where Beefcake was going to throw Hogan into the corner, but Hogan reverses it, throws Beefcake into Johnny Valiant. Okay. And when he does that, I'm supposed to catch Johnny. Well, Johnny, bless his heart, it's just a bad accident. He's real clumsy, and I probably should have been smarter in the business and not done it. Well, I'm ready to catch him. He was about 265 pounds.
Yeah, he's a big dude, all right.
And so I'm going to catch him, but I wouldn't have no problem catching him. I was going to catch him and hold him in a bear hug. But I was already on the ground, and he was on a. When he come off of there, he kicked. Somehow or another, I had my knee planted forward to catch him. He kicked me, brother, under here with his boot. My kneecap went right up here. I tore my left rectum alum, my right rectum alum, and my patella tendon away from the bone one shot. My kneecap was right here to the middle of my thigh, to the inside of my thigh. And I fell back, and it didn't even knock me down. And I fell back, and I could see through my overalls.
Oh, my God.
Quadricep just flipping out, man. And I was like, and I grabbed kind of like a dog or something. I grabbed my kneecap and pushed it back down where I thought I could put that damn thing anywhere. So that was lights out of me, so I had to have the surgery. And that put me on the shelf for about 8 or 9 months.
Were you scared? I mean, you were obviously getting introduced with this big Hogan.
Well, I'd already started doing stuff around with Hogan. Me and Hogan had already sold out like a Landover Cap Center. Hogan's was selling. I was like some mean Hogan. And let's be honest, I was on the deal, and it was sweet.
You were riding that gravy train. I was
just fixing to get. I just got there. And then I got sidelined with all that, and then it was just a mess. But to the WWF's credit, they paid for every bit of it.
Were you paranoid that maybe everything would go away?
I said shit. Yeah, man. I thought because of them other old territories, it would have. It would have. There ain't no question about it. You'd been done.
Yeah.
They paid for everything, and they waited on me. And then Jimmy Hart, while I was out, told him about Stan Frazier, Plowboy Frazier. Uncle Elmer, they call him. Mm-hmm. We'll get Uncle Elmer. God bless, the biggest con man that God ever created. And I ain't just saying that because I'm making a joke, because he was about 6'9", about 420. Okay. And it was probably the biggest con man God ever created. For real. This is not a play on words, brother. Anyway, they brought him in, and he was getting over. They got him to get over, in my place so I could come back and doing all kind of stuff. But he was a whiner and a bitch and a complainer. And finally, when I started coming back to where I could go back and manage, I'd been off and gassed up and got all big. Strong. Of course, I was healed, but it wasn't time for me to work again, But I was going out and managing him, and he was over like you wouldn't believe it. And then he just went nuts and decided he'd just take off. And then I brought in Cousin Junior, Lanny Kane, my old buddy, the guy I ever had my first match with, the guy who really trained me. I said, hey, man, they need you. And he came in and worked barefooted, and they loved him, Cousin Junior, because he could do that mule kick barefooted, and it was just cool shit, First place we went to was San Francisco Cow Palace. We brought him. All those Samoans went crazy over him. And, they could kill like dinosaurs. Samoans could. Come on. Yeah. Even the regular one. Not the ones we know of, but just the normal ones. Could kill everything. They could kill the San Francisco 49ers. So anyway, so he got over. So it was all good. And then finally, I started getting better. And then next thing you know, I'm managing him and Elmer come back. And what a team. So I managed them, and I'm getting better and stronger. And finally, Elmer just took a big powder one time. And I'm back working. And Elmer's supposed to be working a match for Saturday night's main event for NBC. It's in Providence, Rhode Island with Dick Ebersol. Big deal.
Big time, yeah.
He's supposed to do a match. He's supposed to do a match with King Kong Bundy. I'm in Fresno, California, getting ready to eat my eggs and bacon one morning. Chief Stromer runs in. You hillbilly. You. What up, Chief? Come on and go with me. He said, no, come on, go. I said, what's going on? He says, Elmer is holding up NBC. He ain't gonna
come on.
He's not going to show up.
He's that guy.
He's not going to show up. He's holding up NBC. He claims he wants more money. What? Vince is furious. What? You got to go. You got to go all the way across the country to do that shot for him tonight in Providence. Well, it's already 10:30 in the morning here, which is 12:30 in the morning or 1. They hire a Learjet to fly from Sacramento. The WWF does. They hire a Learjet. Now follow me. And it comes with 2 captains and me. There ain't nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 24-seat Learjet, and they cater that son of a bitch for everybody on them. I mean, it's food on them. They're going to take me, just me, all the way across the country. Well, have you ever been to Learjet?
No.
Well, let me tell you the deal on the Learjet. I'm a hillbilly. Learjet ain't like a regular jet we get in. A Learjet is unnerving. It's kind of like being in a Scud missile, or kind of like, a drone. You're on a drone. Because it lays back like as soon as it takes off, it lays back like this, and you can feel it violently ripping up through the sky, and you're going, because it gets up like 20,000 feet higher than anything else. You can see commercial jets under you. They look like fleas.
So it's not as glorious as I thought it was going to be.
It's scary. And you can feel that you're going fast.
Right.
So anyway, they fly me all the way across the country, and they're booking to get there. And one of the captains comes back there, and I'm looking at it, there's like 5,000 sandwiches, all this food, it's all this gimmicks and desserts just for me. And the captain comes back. I'm sitting back here with big old hair,
Right.
And he says, "You must be an awful important man." And I do like this. I go, "Me?" He says, "Yes." He says, "For them to fly you," I says, "Well, how much does this cost?" He said, "This costs $17,000." And that was back at that time.
Right, 80s.
In the late 80s. Yeah. 17 grand. And here is the stomper that you're going to love to tell you about how the business is. And you know about this. Right before we get ready to land, I start putting on my shit because I see it's going to be late. I start putting on my knee. I get my knee fixed up, my knee pads and everything, and
put your knee socket in place.
Well, yeah, I got my gimmick on it.
Put your kneecap in place.
I want to make sure I'm okay.
Yeah.
And I'm all ready to go. I got my little ace bandage on and my rubber gimmick on and my knee pad. I don't want to win it. So I'm feeling good. Put my overalls on. I'm ready to go. And as soon as we land, there's a limo there, a big black limo. I step right off of it. I tell the limo guy, I say, "Hey, brother, if you could pull around the corner somewhere, let me take a leak." And I said, "Let's go straight to the arena." He says, "No," he said, "I'm told I got to take you to the hotel." I said, "Brother, the matches are already starting." He said, he turned around, the guy in the limo turned around like this to me, and he said, "Elmer showed up."
Oh no.
Elmer showed up. And I don't need to tell you, they had King Kong Bundy beat him in about 40 seconds to beat the hell out of him. Then they fired him.
Sure.
But he cost them 17 grand. Plus they paid me 2,500 for flying back over. But then the bad thing about it was I was looking for some time off because I got to tell you, one time I worked 63 straight nights.
Which is not uncommon in that.
Not uncommon those days.
Yeah.
And I flew 53. And I was looking for some time off because you're almost at that snapping point.
Yeah.
And we'd all snap. And I wanted to go home, but I had to take that old fat bastard's bookings all over them. And they were good bookings, and I was making money, but I was like tired. So that's just some of the stuff that you go through. And a lot of times, brother, I forget about all this stuff till a guy like you gets me talking. Okay. And I don't know if you're doing this because you're fucking with me, because I think you just want to get me talking because you're just sitting over there like, you're over there like, I got him going now. He ain't going to stop me. I found his button. He likes to talk. And then how about this? Well, within 2 hours later, I come over. You're sitting over there just going like.
Listen, this is my era that I grew up watching.
Yeah, I know.
I love it. I have to ask about Don't Go Messing with the Country Boy.
All right.
Because on my podcast, I do songs of the week, and I just love wrestling and music together, which you're obviously part of.
The WWE was so far ahead of anything else. They were forerunners and purveyors, if you will, of all this merchandising and stuff. And I was so lucky, and I've told you this earlier, remember, before we ever did this, I'd rather be lucky than good. I was just born in the right decade. Somehow or another, us guys in the 80s got woven into the fabric of America. Me and Jimmy Hart talk. And it's crazy how they remember us. Because we came along with that rock and wrestling connection with all that. And then it was the first pay-per-views, the first WrestleManias, WrestleMania 3. We started doing all these action figures and all these things and all this stuff. And they started doing music. There's a lady in Nashville that she wrote this song for me. Her name is Marshall Chapman's her name. She wrote they wanted to do a song for me. Hillbilly, can you sing it? And they were doing a wrestling album. And they had this concept with Cyndi Lauper's boyfriend. His name was David Wolf. That was her boyfriend. And Cyndi was on the cover. You know, Cindy's on the cover. Meatloaf was on it, and a lot of them, and Rick Derringer. And they had the band. You remember the band? You remember the old movie that we love so much called Delivers? Burt Reynolds. Those guys that do that soundtrack on that. Eric Weisburn and Deliverance. They're the ones that are playing music on that for me. They laid it down, that music, that. They're the ones playing.
It's the same guy.
Same guys,
That's
same
cool.
band.
Yeah.
And so they did. So I recorded in New York City. And it became my thing. It became my ring song, which
Right.
played all over the country and the world. And I still use it. I use it on my radio show, my Sirius XM radio show.
What were you coming out to before that? Do you remember? Just some generic cowboy song or whatever?
I wasn't coming out to nothing. I wasn't coming out to. I don't even remember when I was ever coming out to anything before that. Before they did that, because we did those in about 1980.
Was that 87?
84. No, we started doing about 84 or something. It was 84, 85.
Okay, right.
It was early. I mean, it's before my knee injuries and stuff like that. I'd already done that. And then we did another album called Pile Driver.
Mm-hmm. Did you have a song on that one?
I did one. I got one called Waking Up Alone. I did a duet.
Yes, I
did a
remember
duet
that.
with a woman, and to this day, brother, you could be that woman. I've never met her.
Oh, no.
I've never seen her. We never saw each other. She did hers wherever she was going to do hers in L.A. somewhere. I did mine wherever I was going to do that, and they just put them together. I never saw the woman in my life.
It was me, actually.
You did a hell of a job.
It's a weird time in my life.
We had a little weird sexual tension there. I don't even want to talk about that, but we'll do that on another podcast.
You're right.
But here's the whole deal. I've got 2 gold records at my home, big albums, off of doing those things because
That's
they
so
went
cool.
gold in Canada. And I was thinking, I go to these Holiday Inns, Notels, Ramada Inns, and you see great bands. You know how we stop and you go and learn, look at somebody, be some great, and they never get an opportunity, they never get a chance. Nobody even knows them, and they're wonderful. And I'm saying, how good it is to be lucky, to be a part. And see, Vince and them were so far ahead of everything else in merchandising. And to their credit, brother,
You were in a cartoon.
I was in a cartoon. I did
Yeah.
lots of stuff. I mean, there was so many things I forget about all the things. But even to this day, I still get merchandising checks because they still make new Hillbilly Jim action figures. I've had like 7 different ones, and it's not as much as it was before. But let me tell you something. I'm forever grateful. I'm thankful.
Of course.
And if they call me up and say, Jim, screw off, we'll never see you again. I said, well, thank y'all for everything anyway. I appreciate it. And and as you go along the way, I'm the reason that Randy Macho Man Savage came there. I'm the reason that Jimmy Hart came there.
So that Memphis connection, yeah?
Got Jimmy. Jimmy didn't even. It's another story we'll do with some other cast. I don't want to kill you on it. But Jimmy Hart, when Jimmy was inducted into the Hall of Fame, he said, if it wasn't for my friend Hillbilly Jim, he said, I love him. He's the one that called me because Howard called me. I told him, I said, Jimmy wants to come up here. He said, you think he'd come here? Next thing you know, Vince called me and asked me if Jimmy would come because I was in Memphis. I was living in Memphis at that time. I said, Jimmy, I said, Jimmy, Vince McMahon's going to call you. Oh, yeah, sure. He didn't believe it. Mm-hmm. Vince called him and Jimmy didn't believe it. He thought it was a rib.
Right.
And he knew I don't rib.
But that seems to be like an ongoing theme in so many people.
Well,
they're like, yeah, right.
Well, especially down there in the South, because it was ribbing mecca. Okay,
Right.
I mean, but I didn't rib because I know a rib is no good, by the way, if you don't put it over. If you do something to a guy and the guy don't get no reaction, you don't keep ribbing somebody if they don't get mad. Now, if they get mad and you see they're mad, then you can escalate it. Or if they try to get you back, then you escalate it more. And that's when it gets weird. Like Mr. Fuji and Kurt Hennig and those British Bulldogs, they were horrible ribbers. And, if Fuji ever ribbed you, you better just slap. Papa San, that was great. Don't try to get him back because it will go dark on
Heard
you.
some horror
It will go.
stories.
I can tell you horror stories, and I can verify a lot of horror stories. Many that you probably know, Bow Wow Teriyaki, lots of stuff like that. You fed the guy's dog one time. It's, heavy stuff, just awful stuff. And I never was about that. But see, I was in with all these guys. I was in with all the guys doing the 8 balls, the 16 balls, the 2.5 wides, 3.5. I never fell in it because I realized, man, I ain't here taking chances on my life every day in these airplanes and working all over these places to blow my money. Because I've seen guys, Hercules Hernandez, who I love, sweetest guy in the world. He lost a lawsuit one time somewhere in Iowa in a bar because he swore at a guy and spit at the guy. Now, he didn't spit on him, but he spit at him and swore at him. And this guy cost him $38,000. So what I'm saying is, I don't
That's
want
2 jets. It's 2 jets.
2 jets. Yeah, you can go to Providence back.
2 jet trips.
Back and back.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I didn't want to hate. I realized if you go out there at night, and I'd get up every day, and we'd always hear, "Did you hear what so and so did last night?"
Gotta imagine there's so many of those.
Oh, it was Piper, Morocco. It was some stuff that you wouldn't believe that was going on. And in certain parts of the country where it was a little bit better, they would go crazy in those cities. It was like the Vikings hit town with money.
Right.
And then, and then when you got that rock star type celebrity, because we did at those times, everybody knew you. People just give you stuff. And it's coming from everywhere.
Right.
And the guys, and you got to just by the grace of God do we all go. And a lot of my friends, as we've talked about this, we can go about this. A lot of my friends aren't even here no more. They're not here. They're gone.
As you were naming them on the podcast, I mean, as you were talking, rest your soul. Yeah,
lots of them. I mean, Kurt Henning's gone. Rick Rude's gone. I remember lots of guys over the years that just did stuff, and I'm like,
but sometimes I don't like. In my mind, it's like you're a great case in point of like you can't necessarily blame. I mean, you can blame wrestling a little bit, but you were like smart enough to fuck it. I ain't doing this shit.
And everybody that used to quit, everybody used to leave. Vince used to leave him with a complimentary lawsuit. Those guys would all leave. They'd lawsuit him. Right. And I'm thinking, now why would I want to sue somebody that's took an old country boy and give him a whole lot of nothing when he didn't have hardly anything? Now how grateful is that? And I don't care if, but by not being a squeaky wheel, I probably could have bitched more and got more. But that ain't in my MO. I don't want to be like that. I mean, come on, man. And like you say, it ain't how much you make, it's how much you save. Jay Strongbow told me that a long time ago, and he was right. And so you learn a lot. I just realized I'd watch these guys and see what they did and see where they were, and I realized, do I want to keep doing this, or I want to be like them? A lot of times I wouldn't want to be like them. But you know what? I love all those guys. Some of them are just the most amazing guys. But they all got demons, and we all got things.
But you knew the path you wanted to take, right?
It wasn't for me, brother.
Right.
It wasn't for me. And I ain't mad at nobody. I was there when it was all going on. I seen it all. Laughed my ass off. And they love. And I would say you probably, even back to what we talked about earlier, you probably couldn't get any of those guys really say anything bad about it, because I never did do anything wrong. They always liked me.
Yeah.
Because I got along with them. I never did put them down for what they did. I never did. I just wish they wouldn't do them. I'd talk to them and say, guys, brother, you might not ought to drink while you're taking them pills, those sleeping pills. I said, I know what I'm doing, but, I said, but, it's a pharmaceutical thing. And sometimes you can do it 1,000 times, and that 1,001 time, the message goes to your brain, shut your heart, and 2 or 3 of them, Kurt Hennig, it happened. And I'm still mad at him for doing that. Because I'd say to Kurt, he'd go, shake her head like that. Hillbilly, thank you, brother. I'll be all right. Ray Traylor, Big Boss Man, same thing. Brian Pillman, sweet guy. Yeah. Gino Hernandez before that. Rick McGraw when I first got to the WWF at that time. Sweetest little guy in the world. Why do you think if other people can't do it that you're going to be able to do it?
Sure. But I mean, your case in point, it's not the wrestling. I think it's them. It's on them,
You know the deal when you come in here.
Right.
What's going to happen?
Exactly. If you're smart enough to stay away,
That's
stay away. And
like I see a lot of guys, just burn themselves out. I see my buddy Harley Race, poor old guy. I love him to death. What a man. Okay? What a man. He ain't never he's probably drove by gyms, but I don't know if he's ever been in one. But let me tell you something. He could tough as a pint of heart and sweet as he can be and knew everything, been all over. When I see him now, he's broke down, superstar Billy Graham. It kills me. I don't want to be like that, brother. I don't want to feel like that. I don't want to be.
Race never worked out.
I never seen. I bet you Harley. Smoking a cigarette and drinking, fighting. If he had to, Harley Race he's been in the wrestling business since he was about 15 years old. Pro wrestling business, 14, 15 years old. And he's never been in the gym. But he's strong.
Of course.
But he's wrestling strong. He was wrestling. I mean, just a man.
Right.
And Jerry Lawler, King Jerry Lawler. Jerry Lawler don't work out, but he knows what he's doing in that ring. I defy anybody to throw a punch better than Jerry Lawler for whatever he is and whatever he ain't. He's an expert technician in that ring, and what he does, he's just got that psychology. He knows how to do that stuff. He's never actually. If he'd been in the gym and on equipment, he was like on equipment, like resting, sleeping, right. Or taking a nap on the leg extension.
Texting on there.
Yeah. Looking up, reading on the bench press. But he's never worked out.
Yeah.
But don't mean he can't be great.
Listen, I'm with you.
He can throw a punch better than anybody's business, and he's got psychology, and he's a genius for finishes. And he knows all about putting characters and gimmicks. But this is good for me. Like coming over tonight and hanging out with you and doing this, man. I'm happy.
Hillbilly Jim. I
mean, we could go on forever.
Forever. I can talk to you forever, Jim. Yeah. I appreciate the younger generation appreciates you not only coming on but being so positive and awesome.
Those guys are great, man. I love those guys. They're funny as hell. They're characters, and they're all. And every once in a while, I say, "Shut up! Come over here." I like to play with them. You mess with them, talk to them. Because they're sweet guys and they want to say, and I don't know shit about Shinola, but when I tell a guy a good match, they like that. It makes them feel good. What does it hurt you? What's the skin off your back to say something? Hi, how you doing? Nice to see you. Look good today. When you put somebody else down, you only hurt yourself. So I'm not going to be that. I refuse to be negative. I refuse to be negative about this business.
Can the people contact you? Do you have like Twitter, or you're on the radio?
Well, I'm Hillbilly. I've got a website. You can go to hillbillyjim.com and see all about me. Now, I'm pretty much a old man about this great stuff. I can tell all you young guys kill me with all this great stuff y'all know about technology. I'm the shits on it. Excuse me.
Man.
That's a wrestling term that you've heard many times.
Yeah, you're allowed to say it.
But here's the deal. You can contact me on that right there. You can contact me at SiriusXM.com. But the best way is go to hillbillyjim.com. I have a guy in New York who handles that for me.
Okay.
And they send me out my stuff. But but I appreciate everybody keeping up with me.
Yeah.
And I do have a show. I'll plug this.
Please.
I have a show on SiriusXM Radio. It's on the Outlaw Country Channel, which is channel 60. And my show is called the Moonshine Matinee, Hillbilly Jim's Moonshine Matinee, and I am the host on it. It's a 4-hour show that comes on Saturday mornings. If you're on Central Time, it's 9 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon, and then on Sunday it comes on again from 1 until 5, and you have to do the appropriate time if you're in the East Coast or West Coast or whatever. So I've been doing that for about 8 years. I have special guests to come on and do it with me from time to time, and I play blocks of tunes and just get on there and have a good time. I talked about this show over here. I'll talk about what me and you did tonight. I get to talk about whatever I want to, and they give me wonderful rain. My boss is little Steven Van Zandt, the guy, little Steven Van Zandt from Bruce Springsteen's band and from The Sopranos. He's the guy that runs that channel, and he's the guy that hired me through another friend of mine that knew him, and that's how this thing works. Nobody can make it by themselves. You can say, I don't want you. We all need people. We're humans. Whether you want to say it or not. Sometimes I get cranky and I don't want to do it. But let me say this to you. If a fan comes up to me, him or she, whoever she is, I'm going to have time to talk to them. I appreciate them coming up to me because that takes a lot for somebody to come up to you and say that to you. I would never, and I've never turned one down. Now, I might have been in a hurry and I said, brother, I can't do much now because I got to go. But I'm never going to be mean to them or I'm never going to be rude to them.
Jim, you're great. I appreciate you being on.
Brother, thank you so much. Hey, remember, don't go messing with a country boy.
I love it.
Thank you.
The hillbilly himself will always have a place in my heart. Again, that's just the nostalgia of it, the era when I grew up, and I remember that guy, and how cool to sit down and reminisce. He's reminiscing about his life. I'm reminiscing about my childhood and how much I love wrestling and how cool it was and how influential it was on how I became the man that I am today. So cool. Hillbilly Jim, thanks for being on the program. This is what it's all about. Very cool. Hey, before we get out of here, guys, let's get into some plugs and
upcoming events.
All right, the best way you can support ColtMerch.com, DigitalColt.com, t-shirts, buttons, pictures, posters, DVDs, past episodes, premium episodes. It's all available over there. I got a Twitter at Colt Cabana. See the next guest in the art of wrestling is going to be. What I have to say about the world of wrestling or just in general, follow me. I have an email. It's very public. Use it wisely. Maybe you're a promoter and want to put me on your upcoming show or convention. ColtWrestling@gmail.com. Every single Monday night, Marty DeRosa and I will give you the worst promo ever.com. Head on over to WeLoveColt.com. On that page, you'll find my P.O. box. I love getting snail mail. Send me something fun if you want. Plus, I have a monthly newsletter. Sign up, no spam. And through that, you'll get the links to the bonus worst promo evers. Then there's the Facebook/AOW podcast. Like it. We'll talk about each episode each week. Upcoming Friday, March 22nd, Mishawaka, Indiana. Facebook.com/RCW.Indiana. Saturday, March 23rd, Fort Wayne, Indiana. HeroesAndLegendsWrestling.com. Sunday, March 31st, Sittingbourne, England. RevolutionProWrestling.com. Thursday, April 4th, Metuchen, New Jersey. ProWrestlingSyndicate.com. Friday, April 5th, Secaucus, New Jersey. CZWrestling.com. Saturday, April 6th, Secaucus, New Jersey. Live $5 wrestling with Marty and I and plenty of guests. It's after the Hall of Fame. We'll wait for you. Only $5. WrestleCon.com for information on that. And I will be there all week signing autographs and selling the merch Mania weekend. Please come say hi to me over there. Friday, April 12th, Berwyn, Illinois, AAWrestling.com. Saturday, April 13th, LaSalle, Illinois, DreamWaveWrestling.com. I'm wrestling a robot that day, guys. Friday, April 19th, Des Moines, Iowa, 3xwrestling.com. Saturday, April 20th, Watertown, New York. It's an pay-per-view for 2CWWrestling.com. Sunday, April 21st, San Juan, Puerto Rico. I think this is an pay-per-view too through High Spots. Facebook/WWL Moondial. Said that wrong again, but no one's correcting me. Saturday, April 27th, Los Angeles, California, WrestlingCares.com. And Sunday, April 28th, Toronto, Canada, It's been a while since I've been back there. Look forward to going to squaredcirclewrestling.ca. All right, guys, that's it. Hillbilly joined us. Big thanks to Hillbilly Jim. Thanks to you guys. Thanks to Stu Stone and Cable Guy Jeff. This has been The Art of Wrestling for Colt Cabana. I'm Colt Cabana. Thanks.